Yo, you guys remember that one scene from Breaking Bad where Jesse's girlfriend overdoses and she dies? And they have to get somebody to clean up the scene. And that's where we meet Mike for the first time. Jesse's high and sad. Mike comes in, slaps him across the face, and tells him, listen, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, and I'll take care of this body. But make sure you keep this story, right? And you always think about that scene and it's like, oh, yeah, that's just the movies. That's just the movies. No, that's a real thing. People with immense amounts of wealth have fixers just like that in real life. And that's exactly what we're talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, with your favorite singer, D4vd, and the whole Celeste Rivas Hernandez death. Listen, David had his own personal fixer come into play when that body was found, and now it's just coming out in court. Like I said, this case is heating back up, and we're going to learn a lot more things. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we learned about none other than Benjamin Greger, the mysterious accountant of David, right? This was no accountant, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm going to show you today is going to prove to everyone that this was a certified fixer that came through to fix everything in David's life when things were in turmoil. A crisis manager who's able to do things maybe a little bit below the law, above the law, maybe skirt around the law and do a little few things to make you look a little bit more innocent. You see, Benjamin Greger was never really a prominent figure in David's life until this body was found. The day-to-day people that David would deal with was Josh Marshall. That was his general overall manager, Josh Marshall. His day-to-day manager was Robert Morgenroth, right? These are the people that David interacted with every day. The moment this body was found, Benjamin pops up out of nowhere while his day-to-day managers back away from him. Listen, the day-to-day managers didn't want to go to jail, and they said, listen, we got somebody for the job. But anyways, I want to show you a few things that have been circulating the internet lately since day 2 of this preliminary hearing. And you guys tell me what this man is, what his actual job description is, allegedly. From what the paperwork says, this man makes $7,000 a month being a financial advisor. Let's check this out. So during the preliminary hearing so far, we also learned that there's footage of David moving that Tesla. He was the last person to move that car, and that car was left there until it was found. He was the last person to drive it. So Benjamin Greger can't really help him in that aspect. But I'll tell you one thing he can help in is being able to protect this money to where the family's not able to sue his family for anything. The second this body was found, Benjamin Greger got to work and started dealing with David's mom to start dispersing money in all types of different directions and to start raising money for his bail. This was a month after the car was found. They started raising money for bail and they started dispersing all of his assets. One can only imagine why they started doing that. At the same time, his day-to-day managers disappear almost entirely. Now Benjamin Greger is taking over. But let's read a few things. We're going to go through SF Investigates first, and then we have a few reporters that are actually outside of the courthouse. Let's check this out. So the first thing he says, in what I believe was key testimony from yesterday's transcript of David's preliminary hearing, financial advisor Benjamin Greger changed his grand jury testimony and acknowledged that he asked manager Rob Morgenroth exactly what had happened after the body was found in David's Tesla. Greger's answer was not entirely clear, and for some reason, Beth Silverman did not attempt to clarify it. However, he testified, he did tell me, yes. That doesn't even make any sense, but I'll show you the transcript after this. Shortly after that conversation, Greger began coordinating with David's mother to raise $2 million for bail in anticipation of his arrest. Based on the testimony and the perceived need for bail money, I believe it is reasonable to infer that Morgan Roth knew Celeste was murdered and David would be the suspect. And this is where things don't really make too much sense. The second that body's found, what's his name? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out these names. Morgan Roth hires Benjamin. It almost like SF Investigates said, it almost feels like David probably told him, like, hey, listen, I murdered this girl, please help me. And he was like, whoa, I can't really deal with this, bro, but I got somebody we can call. Now, this is all speculation. I'm not saying that this guy is some, assassin grade fixer who's able to move funds around and change the narrative, but it seems like that's what they were trying to do. In my little movie overblown imagination, right? But shit, as more information comes out, it's seeming like that's what they were attempting to do. So anyway, started raising the money, and this is the transcript. Let me read it real quick. Mind you, this is the point where David's normal managers pretty much stopped contacting him like that. They don't want much of anything to do with this, which tells me that David told somebody. His mom knows. For sure, Benjamin knows because he lied in the grand jury. And for sure, in my opinion, one of the two managers also know. People knew about this before it all came out. But let's keep going, right? So apparently Benjamin lied in the grand jury. So this is them retaking his statement, which I feel like you should go to jail for. But anyways, let's read the transcript. Now, hold on, listen. You might want to take the word from AG Tactical with our new sponsor today called Money Pilot. All right. Money Pilot's an app that you could download on your phone that allows you to claim class action lawsuits that you're eligible for. And it's automatic. I always bring up Yahoo with the class action lawsuit that was able to net me $325 just by looking into it. So if you guys are interested, make sure you go download it, and I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. So I believe this is the prosecutor. It says that you didn't ask any questions because you didn't want to know. You didn't ask any questions because you didn't want to know. Answer: I recall portions of that, yeah. Question: is that true, or is it your testimony today true? Or is your testimony today true? Answer: I'd say my testimony today is true. Question: okay, so when you said at the grand jury that you didn't ask Rob any questions because you didn't want to know, that would not be correct? Answer: I'd say that's not correct. Yeah. This is Benjamin on the stand. Question: okay, what questions did you ask Rob about the details? Answer: I asked Rob plainly what had happened. Question: and what did he tell you? Answer: he did tell me. Yes. You can kind of feel where he's just saying like, yeah, he told me something. Well, what did he tell you? I mean, he told me what had happened. So then I stepped forward and I decided to help with my services and start raising money and start allocating funds and take over David and be his best friend. Yeah, he told me what happened. I'm not going to tell you, but he told me, yeah. Oh, trust me, folks, this is going to trial. I thought by some miracle they would pull something off to where this preliminary hearing didn't push forward. This is going to trial. Off of this single sentence here alone, he's hiding something. Let's keep going. So they asked the question, okay, how many times would you say you've spoken to Rob since he returned from that tour and the rest of the tour was canceled? Yeah, that's how it's written. Let's just keep going, yeah. He answers, regularly. Question: how many times approximately? Answer: from September to the end of approximately September. Oh, I guess from the beginning to the end of September. Probably a handful of times, approximately 2 or 3 times out of the month, and I'd say pretty regularly, at least once a week now. When you testified at the grand jury that you had spoken to Rob 50 to 60 times since the tour, and that was in February of 2026, would you say that's correct? Answer: that's correct, yes. Okay. Back in September of 2025, after the tour, the remaining portion of the defendant's tour was canceled, and prior to any arrest in the case. Is that when you began discussing money and bail with Colleen? And mind you, Colleen is David's mom. We've done a video about the possibility of her sending voice messages to David about, their sexuality and shit. Colleen's kind of an interesting pickle herself. So I wouldn't put it past Colleen to do anything to save her baby, her angel child. I could already feel the vibes. So then Benjamin says yes. Question: were there a certain amount of bail the two of you were trying to put together? Answer was, I believe we were trying to raise $2 million. Now what type of an innocent person's already trying to raise $2 million and hide assets if they didn't do anything wrong? That's kind of strange, isn't it? $2 million. Why? Clearly somebody dumped a dead girl in your trunk and it's not your fault. So we're just going to figure this all out, right? We're just going to go down to the station. We're going to figure this all out. Yeah. And mind you, all these Teslas, they have 1 billion cameras on them. And there's footage of him being the last person driving the car. It's not looking good, brothers. Not looking good. So I believe we were trying to raise $2 million. And then our question goes, at some point, did you discuss or start to the process of putting the two homes that the defendant purchased to post them as collateral for bail? The answer is the Cypress house was the intent to add as collateral, yes, and the Hempstead house was never supposed to be used for collateral. Question: which one did you say was going to be used for collateral? Answer: Cypress. Question: do you remember testifying the opposite and that you used the Hempstead house was probably the one that was worth the most, that was the one that you were using for bail? And then there's an objection. They say, Your Honor, I'm going to object. Continuing this line of questioning isn't relevant. The court says overruled. The court will allow it. Witness continues. The Hempstead house definitely had more value, but it was also where Colleen, Dawood, Cable, and Emily were living. And then there's a response. It says, yes, but that wasn't my question. My question was, did you testify that at the grand jury? So number one, this witness seems like bullshit. They started off their testimony by lying, and now they're amending it later on. It seems like Benjamin's the type of person that doesn't really care too much about a little bit of prison time as long as he's being paid well. And I mean, if you're trying to protect a fortune from getting sued by a grieving family, I would assume that David's mom wouldn't really mind paying very well. It seems like David's mom enjoys being a millionaire. And David's made $11 million so far. Apparently, I hear in the rumor mill that he had a $17 million deal that he was about to sign. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out one of these reporters outside of the courtroom so you can actually hear somebody who actually saw the events themselves. Let's check it out.
Okay, so I just got out of court and I need to talk to you guys about this sketchy witness. So this guy named Benjamin Greger took the stand. So he was David's financial advisor at one point. He was hired by this man, Josh Marshall, and he also worked with Robert Morgenroth. So Robert was David's day-to-day manager. Well, it seems like Benjamin came into the picture because he knows finances. And what I thought was so evil is that the prosecutor was asking him questions about how they were trying to formulate bail because they were trying to get $2 million. And I mean they by Benjamin and David's mother, David's mom, Colleen. So Colleen and it seems like Benjamin have been in cahoots trying to figure out a way to move all of David's assets. They even emptied out his IRA, which is his retirement, which had like $150K. They emptied it.
Listen, bro, they emptied it out. They emptied out his IRA fund. Shit is fucked. And I mean, what? It's code red if they're doing all of that, and this is just a month in, right? So everybody's on the outside angry, like, oh, David should be in jail. Listen, David knew he should be in jail too. He knew he should be in jail too. They were over there panicking, and they probably did it fast enough and well enough to where the Rivas family won't be able to sue them for anything. I'm telling you, bro. And that's probably why he doesn't really have money on his books right now. This, that, and the other. Things are all swooshed up and mushed up and just all up everywhere. Benjamin, baby.
All out, and they moved it into these different trusts because they had one goal and one goal only. Not only to secure the $2 million in bail, but also to move all of the money from David's ownership to his mom's ownership, because they want to make sure that Celeste's family can never sue them in a civil suit and take all of the money he's made.
And I feel like that's what really makes this family that evil, bro, because I mean, okay, your son, you love your son, right? Okay, that's fine. But now you're going to get to, I mean, I guess your son made the money and you've been living off the money, so you feel entitled to it and you don't want the other family to steal it. But I feel like that's just a level of evil right there. You know your son did this shit, allegedly, but you know he did that shit, right? You know it. And you're going to take immediate action to make sure they can't get any form of justice, any form of compensation, nothing. Kind of crazy. But let's keep going, though, because he had more to say.
They revealed that he's made about $11 million in his entire career, and I think it's literally evil that they want to move all the money around just so that Celeste's family could never get any bit of it. Like I said, Josh Marshall also worked for this company. He hired Benjamin. I found it interesting that Benjamin did share that he's no longer friends with Josh Marshall. Seems like they had a falling out earlier this year, and I feel like it has to do with this case. Also, the prosecutors were asking him, he would normally text and call, with Robert or with Josh, but as soon as this Tesla situation happened, they moved over to Signal, which is kind of sketchy. It seems like anytime there was any talk about bail, about the crime, they moved it over to Signal so that it was encrypted so that nobody could ever see these messages. So,
you see what I'm saying, bro? They were playing James Bond. They were playing super secret CIA agent, and I feel like they started fucking up. My opinion is that this guy's gonna get caught up trying to play Mr. Fix It, Mr. I can handle it, right? Josh Marshall, the other guy, Morgan Roth, or whatever the fuck his name is, those guys aren't even friends with him anymore, but he still stays with the family because he understands. He probably seen so many money. He's probably seen so much money go through his hands or go through the family's hands during this panicking, trying time that he wants to stick around and see if he could siphon a little out of it. This guy's gonna get himself in prison right next to David if he doesn't lock in. But hold on, let's keep going.
The money of it all is freaky. It almost surpasses David, because I feel like David's mom, Colleen, likes the money and wants to keep the money for herself. Oh, another interesting thing. So Benjamin is still working with Colleen. And get this, David's mom is paying Benjamin $7,500 a month on a retainer. He said that's what he makes a month. But last week, he was hired by her to find an entertainment attorney. Well, then if you were hired last week to find an entertainment attorney, why are you being paid on a retainer, a $7,500 retainer? It is interesting, the money game.
And I'll tell you why they're hiring an entertainment attorney, because they're banking on David getting out and they want to continue his career. Entertainment attorney, I don't even know what the fuck that means, but I mean, just count 1 + 1 and that might equal 2. It's probably to get his career back on track. Crazy work. And there's already people online talking about it. That's not the first. I didn't come up with that idea. There's people already talking about it. He's probably thinking there's a chance I might beat this.
I can't wait to see where the paper trail goes.
But anyways, we'll see where this whole thing goes with Benjamin. I am very curious to see what type of witness he's going to actually be when this trial gets going. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm very curious. I feel like this is going to be one of the few pieces that's going to help destroy David's life. But before we get out of here, this reporter was actually able to see the images, and he had a few things to say about things that stood out to him, especially the plastic that were in the wounds, right? There's so many things that are going to stick this guy to the wall. But anyways, let me show you a few things he had to say.
who's called to the tow yard the date that the vehicle was recovered, and he's gotten us so much information. This guy is the guy that knows everything. He's got all the surveillance and stuff. So pretty much on September 3rd, the car was sent to the impound lot. It was towed on the 3rd, and this is where we get into some of the graphic pictures. I'm sorry, guys. So one of the photos we saw, this was exhibit 15, I believe, and it was a picture of it was a picture like this, and this is like the black trash bag, and there's blue ropes here. It was a tied trash bag, and pretty much all you can see in the background was like kind of a red and maggots everywhere. You can see maggots and bugs and larvae. Actually, what was interesting is Josh, the detective, said that you could see like the life cycle has happened with these organisms. And then this is the most graphic picture. Of course, these are drawings, but there's one of where you can see her body with her head, and like her arms are gone, and it looks like she's face down, but it's so she's so, what's it called, deteriorated that you couldn't really see, but her head was down here, and it almost looked like she had a strap.
Jesus, bro.
Type of thing here. The color of her body, this is so hard to talk about. It was actually so upsetting too, because I'm sitting right by the parents and I'm hearing all this stuff and I'm seeing the parents react, and it makes me want to cry. Like at one point the judge, or like the attorney said, like, Celeste's full name is Celeste Abigail Rivas Hernandez, and her mom just started sobbing, and it is hard being here. It looks like, look, there's a bunch of attorneys and stuff over there. I don't know, they're all doing their own thing. Okay, so then that photo showed like kind of her head and her body. This one was another bag, and you can kind of see the limbs were put into there. The arms were put into there, and I guess the limbs were cut around the knees. So disturbing. And then there was another photograph. So then they wanted to show the fragments of plastic, and there were a bunch of fragments within the actual flesh, a lot of blue pieces, which...
Yeah, this is where, so apparently he got the, and what a fucking psycho. Who gets a chainsaw? The blade it's not even a blade. It's multiple rigid pieces of metal flinging at high RPMs. Like, who in their right mind is like, yeah, I murdered her. Let me get a chainsaw to dismember her. What the fuck? But anyways, so right here is he's describing how it's obviously torn up plastic, like among her body, wrapped up amongst her flesh.
I believe comes from the chainsaw that he had used. So there was like, they had a right kneecap that had a bunch of pictures that they had showed us. We also saw her hands, because one of her hands had 2 fingers removed, assuming because David had a tattoo of his name on one of those fingers. The one finger that you did see, you could see the tattoo that she had, which matched David's. Now,
yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it, folks. A lot of things are coming to light, folks. A lot of things are coming to light. And I just think it's just going to be that much of a bigger nail in his coffin. You know, it's going to be a screw in his coffin. I feel like that's harder to get out of. They're going to screw that shit down with very long bits. Screws. They're going to put fucking bolts on the edges of it so they could tighten it when they're done screwing it. But anyways, guys, you guys let me know what you think in the comments, man. This shit is day 2, preliminary hearing. I might come out with another video if anything else comes to light, but if not, keep your eyes open tomorrow. But until then, folks, stay inside, stay safe. You know I love y'all. Peace.